What's up? It's Susie from Hey Grill Hey, and today I'm bringing you a secret steak cut. It's not actually a secret, but it's not one that's super well known. It is a Delmonico steak made famous by the Delmonico restaurant in New York City. It is an absolutely delicious cut of beef. I'm gonna tell you all about it, give you some tips on how you can get your own from your butcher, and then I'm gonna give you a really delicious steak marinade so you can grill these up with tons of flavor at a pretty affordable price. Let's do it. First up, let's talk about the Delmonico cut. Now, if you have seen a Delmonico at your grocery store, honestly, it's a real gamble as to what you're actually getting, because what is commonly labeled as a Delmonico isn't actually the same type of cut that they're serving at the restaurant in New York. I know this. We called them on the phone and said, what is a Delmonico steak? We were able to talk to somebody at the restaurant in New York, and they gave us the inside track. A Delmonico steak is a double thick cut chuck eye steak. So where the ribeye turns into the chuck on the cow, there's this section before the meat becomes tough and gristly like a chuck roast, but it's still tender and flavorful like a ribeye. Now, because they can't be labeled a ribeye technically, and they're not necessarily a chuck roast, they're kind of this middle space where not a lot of grocery stores or butchers carry them. And if they do, they often look like this. Pretty thin cut chuck eye steaks. Or if you have seen it labeled as a Delmonico, it's usually not a super thick cut chuck eye steak. Sometimes they'll just take their regular steaks and cut them extra thick, because an extra thick cut chuck eye steak is a Delmonico. You can see where the confusion comes from. So if you don't have something labeled as a Delmonico in your grocery store or at your butcher counter, you can simply ask for a double thick cut chuck eye steak, and your butcher should be able to pull that off for you, because most butchers know exactly what that is. An added bonus is chuck eye steaks generally clock a lot less expensive than a ribeye steak, so you get a beautiful steakhouse quality cut for less money per pound than you would pay for a ribeye. So you can simply season these, grill them up, and you'll have a beautiful, delicious steak. However, when I am making chuck eyes, it is one of the few steaks that I actually prefer to marinate. I think it has such a unique kind of texture and flavor profile that it really benefits from a marinade, especially one like the one that I'm putting together today. These are simple flavors. Nothing's gonna overwhelm the flavor of the beef itself, but the little bit of acidity, little bit of sweetness, little bit of the herbal flavor that we're gonna get from the marinade should complement these super thick Delmonico steaks beautifully. The good news is you probably have most of these ingredients already in your pantry for this marinade, so it comes together very quickly. We start with a base of olive oil, red wine vinegar, and honey. To that, we're gonna add in some Worcestershire sauce, salt, black pepper, red pepper flakes, a few sprigs of fresh thyme. You can also use dried, and some fresh minced garlic. Give that a good mix, dissolve the honey and the salt, and release the oils from the herbs. Once this is mixed, your steak goes into the marinade, and I like to leave these at least 4 hours. You can leave them up to overnight, so you can prep your marinade, get your steaks in the night before, and then they'll be ready for you to grill up the next day, or you can do them in the morning before you go to work, and they'll be ready when you get home that day. Into the refrigerator. We are going to sear these steaks off first. If you've ever heard of the reverse sear, you usually start on the low heat side and then finish on the high heat side. But I have found when I have steaks that are marinating, it works better for me to get that sear first, because these are coming out of the marinade with quite a bit of liquid on them. So getting them right over direct heat helps me start to develop that, coveted crispy crust on the outside right from the beginning of the cooking process. So these are gonna go right over the coals for a few minutes per side, and then we'll move them over to the indirect heat side to finish cooking. That already smells so good. Our steaks are sizzling. Oh yes, we've got a beautiful crunchy crust on the outside of these Delmonicos. They're going over gently to the indirect heat side of the grill. We're gonna close the lid and let these thick cuts finish cooking. Our Delmonico steaks have been over indirect heat for probably 15, almost 20 minutes. They're clocking. This one's at 131. That's perfect. I'm ready to pull these off and let them rest. The color on the outside of these steaks is absolutely insane. These beautiful steaks have rested. I feel like they need their own close-up moment. They are luscious and caramelized and so shiny and delicious. And the color on the outside of these steaks comes from that marinade, having the olive oil and fat on the outside, but also that little bit of honey caramelized over the high temperature and then just turned to this beautiful burnished, bronzy deliciousness over the indirect heat side. And my mouth is actually watering. So I'm gonna take a little piece off of this front corner right here. No one will ever notice. And that's where a lot of the flavor is gonna be. Listen, these have so much flavor. You get all of the fattiness and beefiness of a chuck and a decent amount of tenderness because they're so close to that ribeye. They are gonna have a little bit more texture than a regular ribeye, but honestly, I think the flavor payoff is totally worth it. It is a good trade to make. I hope now you feel confident enough to go up to the butcher counter and get your hands on a Delmonico steak so you can try this recipe at home. If you want more kind of insider tips and steak know-how, you have to check out my Steak 101 video here on YouTube. It has so many tips to help you pick the right steak based on what you like and how you like to cook. It is packed with information. So go check that one out. Hit the subscribe button if you feel like you need more backyard barbecue know-how, and we'll see you next time.